So we've been talking about the lawsuit by attorneys general from 22 different states who are trying to undo the FCC's 2017 repeal of net neutrality. However, there are 3 states in particular that are joining the opposite team, and they're fighting against the people in an effort to make sure that net neutrality doesn't come back, to make sure that it's permanently destroyed. And these states are Texas, Arkansas, and Nebraska. Now, for more on this story, we go to John Brodkin of Ars Technica, who writes, "The Federal Communications Commission's repeal of net neutrality rules has received support from the Republican Attorneys General of Texas, Arkansas, and Nebraska. The 3 states filed a brief Friday in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit, urging judges to reject a lawsuit filed against the FCC by 22 other states. The action highlights a partisan split among state attorneys general. States with Democratic attorneys general are fighting to save net neutrality, while states with Republican attorneys general are either fighting against net neutrality or standing on the sidelines. The FCC's net neutrality repeal is being challenged in a lawsuit filed by all 22 U.S. states with a Democratic attorney general, as well as the District of Columbia, which also has a Democratic AG. The net neutrality repeal has drawn interest from state governments, partly because the FCC claimed that it can preempt states from enacting their own net neutrality rules. The state's lawsuit against the FCC seeks to reinstate federal net neutrality rules and prevent preemption of state laws such as one just passed in California. But the Texas, Arkansas, Nebraska brief supports the FCC's authority to change decisions made by previous administrations. The FCC's new leadership can look at the same set of facts and come to a different conclusion without violating the Administrative Procedure Act, which dictates how agencies can make policy changes, they wrote. Quote, accordingly, undoing or reversing agency action is permissible so long as the agency demonstrates awareness of the change and offers a satisfactory reason for it. They wrote, the brief was submitted by Texas AG Ken Paxton, Arkansas AG Leslie Rutledge, and Nebraska AG Doug Peterson. So this is mind-blowing to me for a number of reasons. But first of all, the FCC's repeal of net neutrality is trying to preempt states, is trying to take power away from states. Now, normally, if you're a Republican and you are all about states' rights, well, this flies in the face of that, because clearly, if you support the FCC's repeal order, you're acknowledging and accepting that the FCC has the power and authority to override you and what you want to do in your own state. So you are clearly going against states' rights here. There's a lot of attorneys general who are Republican who are sitting on the sidelines, and that's better than signing onto a lawsuit to fuck over your own constituents. But certainly, if you're going to make the case that you support states' rights and small government, there's no bigger government than allowing one weasel at the FCC to tell your state what it can and can't do when it comes to net neutrality. But I mean, I'm framing this in terms of the conservative argument when what speaks to them is dollar bills. The reason why these Republicans are in favor of destroying net neutrality is because, by and large, they take a shit ton of money from internet service providers, lobbyists for AT&T, Verizon, Comcast. They're going above and beyond to make sure that they buy off as many politicians as they possibly can, because they know this is going to be a long and lengthy legal battle that might go in their favor if they just win enough Republicans. And these people are shameless. Now, the second reason why this is so absurd is because these Republicans are going against their own constituents, not just the people that they represent that didn't vote for them, but everyone. People who voted for them, by and large, support net neutrality. When you look at aggregate polling data on this issue, I mean, there's no argument against net neutrality. Every single poll shows that the overwhelming majority of the population supports net neutrality. And going to the Mozilla poll that I always cite on this, a majority of Republicans support net neutrality, and this is also something that you'll find in other polls as well. So I just don't get how they can be so open about their desire to overrule the American people. And these states, in particular, Texas, Nebraska, Arkansas, they're saying, no, if the FCC says that we're not allowed to do something, we're going to bow our heads to Ajit Pai and let them dictate what we can and can't do. So in other words, if we somehow are out, if a new attorney general comes in who's a Democrat, well, we want to tie their hands as well and make sure that they can't represent the people. I mean, this is just, it's pathetic. I mean, it's shilling out in the open. They're not even trying to hide it. Their agenda is crystal clear. They're bought and paid for by the industry, and it's really as simple as that. Occam's razor, right? It's just that to sign on to a lawsuit, I mean, already not doing anything about net neutrality, that's bad in and of itself, but to sign on to this lawsuit, it's a slap in the face to every single citizen in that state. And there's not much that we can do about it at this point besides, calling them if you live in those states. But certainly we just have to cross our fingers that this lawsuit goes in our direction, because if we lose this, we're fucked. Net neutrality likely isn't coming back, and the only solution is public broadband. And that's something we've got to fight for at the local level. But certainly, we all need to make sure that we're doing what we can at the state level and just hope and pray. Do whatever you can, voodoo, witchcraft, whatever the fuck you possibly can to make sure that this lawsuit goes our way. Now look, even if it goes our way, well, it could get appealed. And if it gets to the Supreme Court, we talked about this recently on the program, it's gonna die there. Because Brett Kavanaugh is very much against net neutrality because he thinks it violates the First Amendment. Because he believes, and a lot of Republicans have the same legal philosophy with regard to this issue, that the internet is more like a magazine, and ISPs should have editorial discretion over what their customers see. So for the government to step in and say, you're not allowed to block certain websites, well, that's a violation of the First Amendment according to individuals like Brett Kavanaugh. So it's disturbing. It really is disturbing, and really enraging to see these three states sign on to this lawsuit. But I mean, it's really, I'm still surprised that they didn't sign on sooner, but they're getting bold. I mean, they see that maybe the momentum on this issue is dying down a little bit. Maybe voters are starting to, tune out a little bit when it comes to the net neutrality debate. Now is our time to, stake our claim in this battle. Well, you chose wrong. These three attorneys general made the wrong choice, and they're on the wrong side of history. And I hope that they lose their jobs. I hope that they're voted out because of this, because you just went against not just Democrats and liberals, but Republicans as well, who also support net neutrality. So good job. Hopefully your shilling will cost you your job.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.